Hey guys, I don't even know what episode this is going to be because I have some in the docket, but in this episode, it's just me, and I rarely do this, but this is an audio only episode, mainly because I'm still in my pajamas. I'm still laying in bed, and I'm in nowhere near shape to record a video right now. Um, but I wanted to record this because I want to capture this moment. I don't know exactly what I'm going through, but it is something spiritual, and I feel like I'm hitting a new level of just my spiritual growth and spiritual walk. Um, it's almost like new levels, new devils. That's such a cliche statement, but it literally feels like that. And I think I'm realizing with so many dreams and inspirations and goals that I have as a small business and things that I'm trying to do with my friend, for my family, for her family, and for so many things I'm trying to do. And I literally, if I do something, I do it with all my heart. I put everything on the line. All of my emotions, all of my effort, all of my energy, as much money as I can. I believe in something. I'm going to do everything I can to see it succeed. And it's so funny because it feels like my emotions feel like I've failed, but I have not failed. Like, literally, our business is doing really well. But it's not where I wanted it to be. And so what I'm wrestling with right now is the friction of being further along than where you were, but not being where you thought you'd be, and dealing with the emotional disappointment of, okay, this is going to set me back from where I wanted to be financially to move things forward for other goals that I have that I feel like God's called me to do, you know? And I think it's so funny that He's such a father. I was thinking about this at the airport yesterday because I just got back from a work trip in Colorado. And it's so funny how I don't know this, but I know from just being a daughter and seeing other parents I know love their children, that when you know what's best for your kid, like sometimes in this moment, you're so tired, what's best for you is just to take a nap. What's best for you is you just need a hug, or you just need an ice cream cone, or you just need to feel loved, or you just need to just, take a nap. I know you feel like you just want to get all this stuff done, but just sit down somewhere and rest, or sometimes you just need a gift or just some time one-on-one to know that you're loved and cared for and thought of, And in the same way, I feel like God knew, and He just knows the way that I'm made, that He knew I just need to have time to see people doing what I want to do. Like, just up close, like I could see you living the life that I want to live. Not necessarily financially, but just like in business and in life. And I treasure so much those moments that God has granted to me. And most people, and the people I'm thinking of specifically is Ben and Nicole Smithy. Last year I got to go to Houston with Nicole. I was actually speaking on behalf of Ben at a education seminar workshop because he had a schedule conflict, and he trusted me to speak on his behalf, and then allowed me to hang with Nicole because she was in Houston that same weekend speaking at Lakewood Church. And truthfully, they're such low-key people. They're not divas in the slightest bit, but I am a huge fan of their life and their life story. They both got married in their mid-30s. They're both very independent as far as business and their careers, and they're both successful in their own right. I've looked up to and admired Nicole for so long, and I learn so much when I just get to be around people and observe from them. And I just feel like God has intentionally let me just be connected to the Smithy group and to the Smithies, and to see them live this out so well. Like the way that they love people, the way that they put God first in church, that which is what Nicole does, and in business, which is what Ben does. And Nicole has a business as well, but she started off in church. So it's such a blessing. Like, it was so refreshing for me to be in Colorado this past weekend and just to see Ben in his element. He spoke in front of 5,000, 4,000, 3,000 students, but 4,000 people at this education conference called DECA. And then he had 4 different breakouts, and all of them were packed with about 200 students in each one. And he was just answering questions, and seeing him so passionate about the experience that he's had, but the value of the experience that he's had and the lessons that he's learned that he can then impart and give to these young students that want to do what he's doing, in the sense of having a business or just being successful in career, And I went because I was overseeing a brand video for him that we're trying to build up his personal brand to help him get more speaking engagements, which is what he really wants to do. And Ben asked me to help find a videographer and oversee this whole project. So it was a privilege, number 1, to be trusted with something like that. Number 2, to execute on it and to execute well. And then number 3, to just be there. We were at the Broadmoor Hotel, which was like, it's just, this trip reminded me so much of my trip with Nicole. And I told her that on Instagram, because ironically, the nicest hotels I've ever been at have been when I was on trips with Ben and Nicole, helping them or just being around with speaking engagements that they were both at. And I feel like God just gave me this moment to see, like, you can do this, Erin. Like, you may not be where you want to be yet, but it's what you want is happening right in front of you. What you need, you're already connected to. It's just a matter of time, And I was also thinking that when it comes to patience, because Gary Vaynerchuk says this a lot, is that people are just unwilling to be patient. Patience is so necessary, especially in business, because a lot of things take a long time, but people want them so fast. And I thought I was patient, and I thought I had that down, because it's an easy mental like thought to accept. It's easy to accept that thought mentally, or to allow your mind to ascend to that thought pattern, but it's a lot harder, and you come face to face with the reality of how impatient I am when I'm actually not getting what I thought I was going to get at this time, And so I'm realizing we're halfway through, a little bit more than halfway through tax season, and although we're doing really well, we're not where I thought we would be. So I'm having to deal with, okay, I'm not as patient as I thought I was, but it's developing inside of me patience, And it's almost like the scripture that talks about being patient, and then long suffering and endurance. I can't think of it right now, but it's like when you go through those things, it instills inside of you endurance. It instills inside of you long suffering. It instills inside of you patience, and so these experiences, when you experience something and it's slower than you thought it was going to be, like, going through that instills inside of you greater patience. You know what I mean? And I think Gary Vaynerchuk is as patient as he is because he's lost a lot, and he's okay with losing. And that's something that I feel like in business, people, myself included, I'm speaking from experience now, don't want to do. Like, you don't want to lose, because it's so easy to, put out, like, we're going to do this and we're going to do that and we're going to be great and this is the best year we're going to have, and I just know it and I can feel it. And then when you're not meeting those goals or expectations, you feel like you failed. Not because you actually have failed, you just failed your own expectations, And so, yeah, there's so many random thoughts I have, but I just wanted to document this and just kind of rant of what's been happening in my head. The other thing I was thinking about was the importance of rest. I was at the airport, and this whole weekend, I was using my phone so much because I was capturing content for the Smithy group, for myself, on Instagram stories a lot, but I was also trying to capture video on my phone, and just so we can, make videos and stuff in the future, but also using it to text and call people and communicate. And I was just using it so much. My battery was running out so much, and it was like I had 10% left, and Ben was just about to go up to speak, so I had to find an outlet and plug it in. But then the more that I used my phone while it was still trying to charge, it wasn't charging fast enough for me to be able to step away and do what I needed to do. And while it was in the airport, the same thing was happening, and I finally had a chance to just sit down and let my phone charge all the way through. And I felt like God was reminding me, Erin, when you rest, sometimes you're resting and you're still working, and you're not letting yourself recharge to the capacity that you need in order to be able to step away and do what you're called to do. And I really just need to rest. It's not like I don't have a lot to do, and it's not like there's not a ton of other things I could be doing, but I literally just need to rest and let myself recharge, because when you're trying to rest and work, it's going to take you 2 to 3 to 4 times as long to get to where you need to be energy wise, so that you can actually step away and do what you're supposed to do. So that was a really good thought, and that I got yesterday, and just felt like I could do a better job with that personally. And the other part is just, I'm learning so much, being able to do this with Delicia, this business, Pay It Forward Taxes. If this is your first time hearing my podcast, you're like, what is she doing, and what is she even talking about? I'm talking about Pay It Forward Taxes. That is a small business that I started with one of my best friends, Delicia Hamilton, and we're in our first season of preparing taxes. And it's been going really well, but there has been a friction, and frustrations, and us trying to figure this out and make sure that our bills are covered, and make sure that we're doing everything that we're supposed to do, that we know to do, with marketing and with advertising and all of that. But it's so interesting because I have never needed to make decisions with somebody else. Anything I thought was the right thing, I just did it. And I didn't have to consult somebody else before making a decision, because I was the only one at risk. And I know it's different for Delicia because she's married and she has more experience with collaborating with someone on being a life team with somebody and building something with somebody else. And that's something I just don't have experience with. I've been on teams and I know how to be a good team player, but it's just different when you have a business and there's financial decisions that you want to make or risks I want to take, but she doesn't necessarily feel at peace about it. So it's frustrating for me because I'm like, what do you, I'm just going to do it. You know what I mean? What is this, but I can't do that because this is a partnership. This is a business partnership, and we have to do everything together, and we have to be on the same page together. It doesn't mean we always agree, but at the end of the day, the decision that is made has to be made. We both have to agree. We may not agree on the process, or I hope you understand what I'm saying. We may disagree about what's the decision being made, but we have to agree about the decision that's being made. And so that's been a challenge for me personally, because I've never had to do that before. So I'm learning so much. And another thing I'm learning too is, some of you may know, some of you may not know, but when I was a kid, my dad went into business with one of his good friends at the time. He has since passed away. It's crazy, the whole story, but this was probably 15 years ago now that this happened. 15 years, maybe even 20 years ago, truthfully. Wow. Yeah, because it was when I was in grade school, and I'm 30 now, so maybe about 20 years ago, my dad went into I think it was some type of venture capital business or something that him and his friend Jeff Coulee was going to start. And my dad believed in it so much that he quit his corporate job to do it. And because it was like we were literally going to be millionaires from this, like that, the potential of what it was, it just made so much sense. And my dad believed in it so much, and he wanted so much for us and for his kids, for his family, because my dad was one of the first people to graduate college from his family, and he's one of 10 kids, so, or one of 9 now, because one of them passed away, my uncle Lee. But I went into this business with my friend Alicia, knowing my dad's experience and being a kid, like that business. To go back to that, I'm sorry, I'm rabbit trailing a little bit, but my dad's business with his friend Jeff, it didn't work out. And so like we pretty much lost our house, had to get, sell one of our cars. We had to split up. My parents lived with my granny for a while. My sister and I, and my brother, actually my sister and I lived with a friend of ours named Miss Taria, and she was going through a lot personally at that time too, but still took us in, which we were so grateful for. My brother Eric lived with a friend of ours named Seth, who was so kind to us and loved us so much. And then Eldon lived with his best friend, John Ramirez. So we were all split up in different homes for a good while. And we also all lived with my dad's good friend, Scott Good. And he had a family of 6, and we had a family of 6, and they had this big house. So we lived with them for a while, and then we split up and lived in different places for a while we were trying to rebuild. And for a season, my dad had to work at McDonald's. Like, he was applying for jobs all the time. Like, he really did everything he knew to do, but it was just hard. It was literally just hard. And my mom went back to work. Like, it took us like 10 years to slowly climb out of that financial situation. And I remember that, but I remember it from my perspective as a kid, as the daughter, and the struggles we went through in trying to just get on our feet again. And now I'm 30 years old, and I've started this business with one of my best friends, and I believe in it so much, and so many of my own personal traits I see in myself, or in my dad, and are in my dad. Like, I'm so much like my dad. And I feel like me stepping into this, that God is going to use this to restore our ability as a family to dream in business and to dream as a family again. And so, not that anybody else puts this pressure on me, but it's almost like I feel like God has chosen me to do it. But in a way, I put the pressure on myself, because I just see so much potential and so much vision and so many things that, like I dream big so much. And it's just interesting, like, being on this side. Like, I understand now. Like, now I get the pressure that my dad was facing when he had these big dreams and it wasn't happening. Like, now I get the weight that is carried when you're stepping out into doing something that's never been done before. And granted, my situation is a lot different, because thankfully I still have a full-time job that's very well paid for me, and I'm able to live below my means and have a good cash flow coming in to help fund a lot of the business things that we're doing, and the expenses that we split and all that type of stuff. But it's just, I'm sitting here in this moment, like, as I pray and think and just just sit in the moment and try to take in the lessons and the value of the process that God has me in. I feel like I can now say, now I understand. Now I get it. And there's certain things you don't have, not permission is not the right word, but it's almost like you just don't have the grit or the experience and the value that other people will place on you when they know that you have the experience. You don't have that until you do it. Ben said at one of the workshops that you don't know how to run a small business until you have one. Like you're broke until you're not. Like you're a millionaire until you're a billionaire, So everything is just it's always so relative. But as I sit here in this moment, again, I'll just say, now I understand. I understand what it's like to run a small business. I understand what it's like to set goals and expectations and those things not be met. I understand what it's like to, like do something with your best friend and to love each other so much as friends, and the friction that happens on the business side and trying to work through that together, and to still be there for each other. Like I understand that now. And I can speak to that now, and I feel like I am experiencing these things because God wants me to speak to this for people. And that is something like, there's so many things running through my head. Even with what Ben experienced this weekend, he was so passionate. Like, he comes alive when he gets to talk to people all day, and help people all day, because it's what he's most passionate about. Sorry, I just had to turn on Do Not Disturb so it doesn't buzz like that for you guys. But I was thinking, and as I think about it now, what if he started the businesses he started and had all the experience that he's had just so he could talk to these students and encourage them and speak life over their lives, so that they could, have that spark or that flip switched, so that they could step in to do what they were supposed to do. What if the experiences and the successes and the failures that Ben has had happened just so that he could have the validation necessary to speak into other people's lives in this way? And what if that's the same thing for me, that I have this experience now to speak into like the business side of things, because I understand, like there's nothing that gives you validation like experience when it comes to business. And now I can speak into business. I can speak into podcasting. I can speak into starting a business with your best friend. I can speak into having family members on your team. I can speak into so many things. And what if I just need these experiences so that I could help other people and step into what they're supposed to do in their ministry? So I'm just super grateful, truthfully. And I feel like this is just an audio diary of what I'm feeling and experiencing now. There's so many people I look up to in business and in life that I wish I could go back and listen to some of their podcasts when they were in their process, or read some of their blogs when they were in the beginning stages of starting their businesses, or even just to hear their heart and the lessons that they were learning and their frustrations that they were feeling when they were doing businesses with their best friend, or when they had to figure out how to make profit, or all those different things are valuable lessons. And so I just want to document this process because, one, I want to remember what it was like, because I know I'm going to be really successful in a lot of different things in my life, and I know I want to remember this. And it's one thing to look back and to remember and to talk about your experience from memory, but it's another to be able to go back and press play in a moment in real time, and the emotions and the thought process and all the in between the line moments that you can't necessarily repeat in the future, but you can play from the past. So thank you guys for listening to this episode, and I just pray that it encourages you in whatever process you're in, and that you find value in the process. Honestly, this is the last thing I'll say, because I was thinking about this yesterday too. The gold and the value and the money is in the process. The gold is in the process. The value that those students found from Ben was him being able to talk about his process. And I want my life to be a celebration of the process, and part of the process is frustration. Part of the process is failing. Part of the process is disappointment. Part of the process is the emotional roller coaster that you feel, is the loneliness that you feel at times. That's the process. That's where the value is. That's what people pay people to talk about. That's what people seek out people to mentor them about. That's what people ask questions about. It's all about the process. The value is in the process. It's not in the accomplishment. It's in the process of being able that you walked through to get to the accomplishment. So if you can just look at your life in this moment and think about what you're trying to accomplish spiritually, emotionally, in your career development, in your relationships, whether you're dating or thinking about dating, and all of these things, like, the process is where the value is. So do your best to capture those moments and remember those moments. It's so important. Thanks for listening, guys. Talk to you soon.